to Jackson, and we'll get you there.
Y'all ready? All right, it's 5:06. And I think we're gonna be out here at 10:06. No. Call to order. Lance, I don't see a flag, and I don't pledge, at least I don't see a flag, and I don't think it's appropriate. Roll call.
Alderman Carpenter.
Here.
Alderman Hill.
Here.
Alderman Lawrence.
Here.
Alderman Joyce.
Here.
Alderman Norton.
Yeah.
Alderman Williams.
Here.
Approval of agenda.
I make a motion to approve.
Second.
Are there any changes to it?
Except number 8, I'm gonna refer it to the end.
Okay. So then we approve it as amended. Is that what you meant?
I'm gonna wait a minute.
Excuse me, what's on the agenda that he make a motion to approve?
Everything's wrote on this paper right here. Public hearing, citizen input.
Copy of that?
Thank you.
Approval of last month's minutes.
I move to approve.
I second.
Got a first and second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Public hearing. Here's the TV up there. Yeah, the public hearing, right?
Mayor, I don't think there's anything on second reading that requires a public hearing.
Okay. Citizen input. Anything anybody wants to bring up before we kick this thing out? As always, bring Larry to come on in 10, whatever you're gonna do.
Is this the appropriate time to talk about the rate increase, or is there another time?
There's another time.
All right.
Anybody else got anything? Next on agenda, communication from me, the mayor. I'm referring to the end of the meeting. I'll have things to say then. Town administrator report.
I would just say that we discussed reports on Friday. We'll be overhauling our reports a little bit, I guess is the best way to put it. Be discussing that this month. Other than that, I won't waste a lot of time talking. We got a lot to take on.
Treasurer report.
Any questions?
Any questions on the treasurer report? Anything outstanding? I look at everything, they're pretty long to me. We have no old business to go over. New business, presentation by Heathcott and Davis.
Yes, Stacy, go ahead.
So right on this, if there's no podium, I'll sit. I'm Stacy Cox with Heathcott and Davis, and Mark has asked me to come and kind of give you a quick summary and update of some of the stormwater flooding issues that are in the city that you're all aware of, and kind of what we've been looking at as recommendations to resolve some of those issues and what we can do long-term and short-term. The primary area that we looked at is kind of boundary to the north by Feed Mill Road, to the west by the railroad, to the south by Maple Street, and then Gordon Parkway to the east, south by Maple. One primary area that we looked at was Bell Street and Bigger Street. I'm sure you're familiar with those over by the park, and that is a very common flooding area. And what we had done is we actually had a survey completed that looked at every one of those culverts and drainage ditches along that route. And then we looked at the proper sizing of each of those based on the rainfall. And we looked at what's considered a 2-year, 5-year storm event. A 2-year storm event means just based on history and rainfall data, it's supposed to happen, the chance of it happening is 50% in any given year. Now, let me remind you that could happen 5 times a week, but statistically, that's what its chances are, 50% in a year. So we looked at each of those rainfall events, and typically what's recommended for residential development would be a 5-year storm event. Well, we looked at the culverts, and there were 2 issues in that area primarily for the residential, was that either the culverts were undersized or they were not maintained or graded properly. There were some that actually were so flat or drained backwards in the way that they're supposed to go, and we looked at the actual elevations. So we've talked to Mark about the city helping maintain those ditches and also talking to the homeowners, and have expressed concern in giving him recommendations on sizing of those. Another concern from that area is right at the curve of Bell Street and Bigger Street. There's a lot of drainage that comes from Depot Park. In the rear end, that kind of corner, and there was a berm previously kind of built up that helped hold some of that water back from the railroad and park. And what we looked into is regrading that area to retain some of that water, so it holds it back and doesn't enter as quickly that roadway there, where there is a low spot. So we've looked at that. Unfortunately, the one problem is the faster you get it off of those roads, is it's going downstream faster, and you get more issues there also. Another area of concern that we looked at was the box culvert under Gordon Parkway by the diner, by the detention area there. And that meets the minimum TDOT requirements, but does not meet their recommended requirements. And that's a TDOT issue. That was probably before a lot of this development occurred also. That's something though that unfortunately is out of the city's hands, but as growth happens, that would be something CDOT needs to become more aware of. Another area there is we looked at the drains of that ditch adjacent to the diner. And again, at this point, because of debris from over the years, it is actually backed up and now it does not flow properly. So it's another area that the city can help by getting in and making some simple adjustments. As I say simple, there's still money involved, but relative to, you cannot unfortunately go back and, I know I heard in the meeting before, hindsight's 2020, but you can't ever project exactly what's going to happen growth-wise. So it's, the small things definitely can help. The biggest also issue that we looked at was the existing detention pond behind the diner. Currently, that pond is about 1.3 acres and holds about 2.5 million gallons of water. And the city uses a temporary pump and pumps through a 6-inch force main along Unionville Road. What we've looked at is the cost to increase the size of that force main to an 8-inch or 12-inch pipe. The cost to do that, the pipe alone for a 12-inch is about $300,000. For the 8-inch, it's about $240,000. And that is just the pipe alone. The pumps, if you were to put permanent pumps in, would add about another $75,000 to about $100,000. But I know the city does have temporary pumps, and that's something that we're still looking into and what could be used and cost. But we're working with Mark just to give him options on that. By increasing the size of the force main from a 6-inch to an 8-inch, you do double the capacity of that line. By making it a 12-inch pipe, you're actually quadrupling the carrying capacity to get the stormwater out. We did look at increasing the size of the detention area, and unfortunately right now that's private property and the city does not own to make it much larger. We've looked at what it would take, and to hold a 2-year rainfall event over 24 hours, a 2-year event puts approximately 3.75 inches over the whole area. Now mind you, that drainage area that goes to that's about 200 acres. So what we'd be looking at is about an 8.5 acre pond that's 8 feet deep. and that would hold 22 million, so about 10 times the size of what you have right now. So what we've talked again, Mark just wanted me to kind of update that we're working with him on these issues. We are making recommendations and cost estimates for some short and long term. Another long-term suggestion we have is with growth. I don't know what your planning commission requirements are, but it definitely would be that is, I know we're watching developments come in and watching Chapel Hill grow, is that if there's not already something in place for stormwater calculations to be required by the developer to make sure that they're not increasing runoff from their sites and making it worse for the existing residents. That's definitely something that we'd recommend. And again, as we fix some areas, if you keep going downstream, unfortunately, you're making it worse for your neighbors also. But there are things you can do that, as simple as increasing culvert sizes for the ones that are just, when we just drove Bell Street, and there's areas that are almost dry already, but then there are areas of standing water, and it's simply that the ditch was not graded properly.
That's my neighbor.
And so the city can help with that, and homeowners can help take care of those issues to relieve some of that pressure down there on the property. And unfortunately, also, as you know, this February it's not an isolated event. The entire state is flooded right now, and unfortunately, Chapel Hill is flat, and you've got Duck River there, which is, there's only so much water Duck River can handle, and it's at maximum capacity also. It's just creating issues. So I just want to give an update and answer any questions that we are working with Mark on these issues.
Didn't they run into the same problem there with that force main? It runs into the creek, no matter how big of a hose pipe you put there.
It does, but the problem is when the creek is out of your banks, there's nothing we can do but to get it out of the city and stay. What we're looking at, I think what the city's concerned about are the private properties within the city and kind of further back from the creek that are flooding.
And then when you put that water in the creek, it goes down and then comes on John's property back into the creek, but she down in the river, pumps it all back into town that way. So you come back and it fills right back up in our hole again. You need to check all that.
A lot of your water comes, that we had the flood starts over here, comes this way. 15, 20 years ago, I think it shot grades at the bottom of the creek over there. Is higher than right there in front of the Methodist church up there in the ditch. We're pumping water down there to the creek. It don't go up Univille Road, it goes down behind the high school, between the schools there, smaller pipe, I understand that. But the water we had to come from here to here, we pumping the same water, making a circle, because the water's coming out of the river, these sinkholes, underpass and sinkholes here, coming in within the town. That's where most of the water's coming from. And the water will not go down at the underpass until the river's completely down within the bottom of the thing there. Then it finally stretches back out. The reason it stayed this long, I think when the gas department run that gas line all the way up the railroad track, evidently some caves or something up through there, everybody got shifted a little bit. The reason we got the water contained here till it broke back loose. The water is coming from the river. They're mainly out here underneath the railroad track. It's coming through a sinkhole right down there.
Well, the times when the river is that high, unfortunately, you're not going to be able to pump. But it's for times when the river's down, but you do get the rainfall events that retention pond is filling so quickly. A 2-year storm event cannot be maintained right now by that detention pond. But a 2-year storm event, that river can't handle and it's not coming back up. And so it's even helped with these smaller rainfall events that are causing flooding.
Where do you think we need to put that detention pond?
Well, right now, where it's located is where the drainage goes, and by the diner there. The problem is it's the size, and that's why we don't have the room to make it larger, so that's why we pump the river. And again, in flooding conditions, when the river is high, you're not going to be able to pump the rate you want to. But in smaller storm events, that detention pond is filling so fast that it's causing flooding when the river is not at its highest level. So it would help with those events when, like I said, the rest of it shouldn't be flooding. It's a 2-year, 5 year. but yet it's not built for even handle small stormwater events.
That'd be great if we could get some more land back there, but I don't think you can find a landowner that would sell us any land to put a retention pond on it.
What
So
about,
really,
what about out there on the depot park? Can it be dug out and hold any water?
There in the corner, where that older pond is, and
Okay, no.
you gotta pull a whole lot of big rock out of
Let's say
it.
it's a lot of rock, that's the big thing in there.
There's a bunch of rock in there, and when you do, you look at the sinkholes that's coming through there.
This is gonna hold it right back up.
And we might move some dirt down to put a barrier around, but there goes the city park then. And
That back area there, yes, that's what we talked about, is that
Correct.
corner right there is building some up, because that area right now is already, I don't know if
Yeah.
I don't know if it's classified as wetland, but it's a very marshy area, so that, it's already that kind of nature to it, and we would retain some of that water there.
Yeah.
And we have talked about that, and like I said, it's trying to fix a larger issue that's been created, but there's at least recommendations to alleviate some of it.
the city of Chapel Hill has been flooding for, I've been in here 48, going on 49 years, and we've had the same floods, same spots as I've been here. And I don't know what the answer to it is. Good Lord takes care of us, I guess. But there's some people that are hurting now because of this. It's costing us some money. And anything we can do to help, we'll do it. But as far as if you can find a place, anybody wants to sell the land, then you're going to put a retention pond, you know. But I don't think that Mr. Dale can settle any of his, and I'm satisfied that Miss Arnold will not sell any of hers. I think that ties
He
too
don't
much.
want that no more. That They'll come get it.
Huh?
They'll come get it now.
Does he own it now?
Yeah.
So I'm satisfied we're not gonna get that. I wish we could, but I know we won't ever come off of it.
No, and we're aware of that, and that's why, like I said, the pumping option, and I understand during, like I said, the large events where the river's high, but in a smaller storm, that way you can use what you have and get the water out of it fast.
Right. Would you advise us to go deeper with it than what we've got?
You start to, as deep as you go to keep the safety risk, you really can't go much deeper. You could create berms around it possibly to make it deeper technically, but you don't want to go further into the ground. You're actually not adding much value to it because of the side slope to it. You're not adding much volume by doing that.
Would your recommendation be a bigger line and a better pumping system right there?
Yes. That
That would
is
be the first thing.
that's the fastest way to get it out of that area during the smaller events, yes. And that's detention ponds, because you don't, at the time, you don't have room to grow. I mean, that
We
would
would have to
be,
go on the north end, underneath that little cover we got, with a bigger pipe, and go underneath it and go up the Union Road, because I'm satisfied Marsh County School System won't let us dig a parking lot up to replace that line across it. And I don't think the city can really afford to go that.
and then even some recommendation is that ditch even between that culvert on the highway and where the detention pond is, that is, like I said, it's all clogged just about, I don't know if you take off, but sediment has graded it where it does not drain naturally. So small adjustments like that will help. It's not going to help in a large event, but it will help in smaller events to get that water out faster.
Everybody down there.
During that line that we have, it's a 6-inch line coming through there right now. When that pump is on, I do see a lot of bubbling up between there and the other side of the school, so I do believe that line is broke in several different areas.
There's a cleanup over there. You see the building coming out that manhole. Yeah.
Well, I don't know, what other side of the school it is.
On the backside of the street.
Yeah, what about down through the lot? When it was full of water, you could see bubbling as they was pumping it. There was about 3 areas I could see bubbling up as they was pumping it.
Do you think that force
In
main
the
is
pond?
Yeah, before the pond, right down before you go underneath the drainage, underneath the road, on the school side, and there's one on this side, on the other side of the road, in front of the diner. They're bubbling up as they're pumping it.
That would be something that
The line.
possibly,
The line is cracked and broke.
So that would be something that could look into and get tested, that line, to check the integrity of it.
I've noticed 3 spots actually bubbling up as they was pumping, water was coming back up, right back into it. When the pump did cut off and quit at some point in time, it did not. That's something, I'm just questioning the line as well.
Okay. That I didn't know about, but again, that's something that can be tested, that integrity of that line, and then we would know also if this even repairs as a temporary fix are needed.
Mark, what would it take to get a bigger line? Is that something you'd have to go through the school, or would you have to bypass that area and dig a different route?
I think the proposal would be to follow the existing right-of-way along the highway and Unionville Road would probably be the best route.
At one time, Archie, you might remember this, at one time, did we not have a 3-phase electric pump to go
We
there
never
and
did,
pump
it
that?
didn't last, it didn't last 30 days, it didn't burn one of it.
I remember a different pump in there in the house.
And, but it's putting all that sludge and stuff right up into that motor and it didn't burn it, down off. That's why I said if it's gotta be, you're gonna have something like that, you're gonna have to have something down there where the sludge won't pick all that mud and stuff up and keep it burning up. We had Dug River come put us a freeway there and
Pardon me?
they come fixed it for us and
Just did it again.
it didn't last for about 30 days and it burned plumb up.
We would have to set it so it wasn't pulling off the bottom, and then make sure it's a grinder pump that would break apart any of the debris that's in there, or you can continue kind of with the type of pump you have now, trash type pump that you put in, and that's kind of still further evaluation. But again, what otherwise we do is set the elevation so it's now pulling from the bottom. That would help alleviate a lot of that, and also a grinder type pump.
We had that, Cal and them bring their pump up here with a tractor one time, and they pumped it about 2 days with us, they pumped it down. I mean, it was a whole lot of water back there. They pumped it down in no time at all with that pump they had. But that's been several years ago too.
Anybody got anything else from last thing? Anything we'll ask him to do further for us, Mark, you know, go with him or what?
No, I think our goal is to try to get to know exactly what types of rain events we can help and which ones we can't, and put cost estimates together to see what it would take to make it as efficient as possible, and then make a decision on whether or not we want to go down that road. So I think at this point, you know, we've got some work to do to get to that exact recommendation and you know, kind of check off our checklist on all the options that we've got on the table. And then once again, make it very clear, and it's been said many times, that we have a rain event like we had 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago. What we're talking about is not going to come close to solving that issue. And, you know, this is just for 2-year rain events, and it's not for major flooding. It might help move water faster during major flood events, but, you know, to what degree is an unknown.
I'm correct in thinking that, and like in me, Mr. Settings, should I say that right? Neighborhood here, ditches is what we need to work on over there on Bell?
There are some, and it's like I said, if you look right now, there's one house in the front that there's almost no water, and then the next house, there's standing water that's all the way to almost the roadway. Well, a lot of that is because it's not draining properly. The culverts are clogged, or they're not even made in the right direction fully. And that's something that I'm communicating with Mark on. He can communicate, you know, further, and I do have some details, and I'll get those kind of recommendations and to help lay those out and But that would help it a lot, actually move it from some of those properties. A lot of it is just related to simple grading.
I agree with her totally. He was under, working for TDOT to know about the one that goes underneath 31. Because they wouldn't get us a permit, you have to go underneath the road to get everything to get underneath it. They used like a mining scoop at one time for one of the other bridges we did. But where I live and where Brian was talking about as well, they ended up putting a crossover, 3 pipes to cross over my lot into where they put the new houses, which is great. New houses came in, filled it in with 30, 40, 50 extra loads of dirt. Now they put a swale that goes directly through those pipes into our property. So now it washes out part of our drive, which over 10 years ago, 12 years ago, when the other administrator was here, they brought in rock and filled our drive. At that point, I even said, I don't think anybody owns a transit around other than you guys that came through. And when they were building the houses, you could see the culverts were going in wrong. You just don't kick them off in the ditch and cover them with dirt. You know that as well as I do. So now we talked to Mr. Moorhead, and he's coming back down, and he's actually asked if I would come by and show him where the water was collecting, which we spent all day out there. I knew people drove through it and laughed because they were spraying water as we were shoveling it out, but to bring the water that would flow through. If the retaining wall would be put back in, like they said 12 years ago when they did the other survey that we received, I don't know if it's your group, the other group, all this wouldn't be as drastic as it is now, and we wouldn't be talking about a farmer's pump. We wouldn't talk about the pump that I put in there to pump water away from it. My neighbor in the back who almost got cited for pumping water towards the back, towards the railroad tracks to the south is pumped because it's going in his house. So we have to get off center, and I'd be willing to give me the backhoe. I'll go out and help you dig the ditches if you're short. Because there's 3 guys on the department that I always see working. And those 3 guys can't handle it. They can't handle putting the hydrant in, but it took them almost a week because of flooding and everything else, because they don't have the manpower. We need you guys to either get us some manpower or get us help to clean our ditches. My ditch, the pipe goes across my road. To this day, nobody can tell me where it goes to, and now it's backing up, which ends up backing up the street. Now it's washing the gravel again out of my drive because nobody can tell me where it goes to. It sits right on the corner. All we're asking for is those kind of expertise to come out, explain it to me better than, it's God's hand. It's 2-year land, it's 30-year rain. An average rain just happened yesterday, backed it all the way up this pipe. So there's got to be more to it, and they nailed 90% of what I asked or thought about from the years of service and working for different companies. They nailed it. If we can increase, if we can move the water, it's not going to back up and cause all the extra. I understand the rock has places where it bubbles up to the river, we've seen it. But now when they put the extra spur in, I know on this side of the park, they filled in one heck of a hole with big boulder rock, even put the silk cloth in there to keep the mud and stuff from going down to help it drain. That now causes more backup for us.
The retention pond there, right there in the corner that he's talking about, that used to be quite a bit deeper. I know that because he wrote me a ticket for riding my 4-wheeler in it. Once a day before they put those houses
And then along with that,
it used to hold quite a bit more water right there in that corner without going into the depot.
and what we're also doing is we're building houses where there's known sinkholes, buried holes that we've done. And unfortunately, there's 5 houses across the street from me that were supposed to be built on that. I don't have that history, but if I go back to the old timers of the time, they can tell me exactly where it was. And why they filled the crock in with concrete, because they're afraid it's going to come bubbling back through it. So we need to either tighten that kind of policy, or planning commission needs to tell us, don't build a sinkhole, I'm sorry. We just can't let you do it. And help me figure out how to move the water so I don't stand out here with a shovel all day and keep the ditch clean. I mean, I did it from the top of the curb where this retaining wall was, all the way down to the corner. Myself, my wife, she spent half the time out there getting splashed with while we're trying to divert the water with hay bales across the guy's fence so it didn't blow right into his house. It can be simple, it can be covered, by probably a good 2-3 weeks of heavy digging. And I'd be willing to spend my time on it, that
Water damage. Mr. President says that's still water damage.
So, you know, I'll put my sump pump off there again and blow water to somebody yells at me again, but if that's what it takes, I'm gonna keep doing it.
I'm with her on this one. I believe ditches, at least on that one side of the road, where they put the new houses, I've never seen water come over my road till this year. And they had to make it to the other side, but there was nowhere to go. It ponded up behind the houses. They're really, really bad, so. I'm here to say, I'll talk to Mark and putting in some ditches if that'll help us. So that's pretty much the recommendation on that
For
side,
that
Tom,
area,
just get
yes.
flow.
That, and also to build up some, like I said, by the park there, in that corner, like you said, it used to be, it held more water back there. To work on, that is city property, to help excavate some of that out that is loose, there's a lot of rock, but then take that and kind of create a berm there. Those are what we kind of say are the smaller things that can help, you know? It's not going to 100% fix the problem, but it's going to alleviate that first rush and everything that comes.
One quick other thing, did you go down Morningside? Like Smyrna Baptist Church and down that
No, this first phase of this study just concentrated on the west side of town to the retention pond, and then we'll have to
way? Okay.
do another phase that looks at what goes out to.
Because what I want you to check with that is I walked it. And if you go where crossover 31, it goes behind the old bank, which is now a gun shop, to the post office. It fills up behind the gas company, it floods out the guy's house, and it goes down Morningside. Like you said, you get a 10-inch pipe, and it's choked down to a 4-inch, back up to a 10-inch, back up to a 3-inch, back up to an 8-inch, and it flows through the guy's fence into the field by the cemetery, which eventually goes to the Duck River. Just by those standardizing the piping, as well as maintaining them, we solve half your problem for you. Along with, when I was on CDOT, and once it was a pain in the hiney, they sent us out with a shovel and pitchfork to clean culverts on the state right-of-way to make sure the water was going so it didn't wash out the road. But with 3 guys on the city department, it's not possible. So if we get the pipes increased and other people to help maintain the flow so that we get more people on the road department or city crew, I think you can handle it within a short amount of time instead of spending another survey, which they did 12 years ago, which I had a copy of the map. So recently, figured, well, that ain't going nowhere. So, sorry, that's my 2 cents, but I think it's probably the most accurate that we've heard in a while, other than their expertise on it.
No, but I'm not trying to throw it back on anybody or anything else now. One of the houses got floodgate, Mr. Crutcher's.
Mr. Crutcher's house, yes, sir.
Had that house built in 1972 myself.
Mm-hmm. I've heard.
That thing flooded in. That's the reason I sold it in 1975. Where the house, Mr. Moorhead or whoever built those houses down the bottom was a pond. My hogs was down in that pond.
Right.
My daddy-in-law's farm. Flooded all down through there. It's been doing that, I know, for 49 years now, 48.
Right.
I don't know what the answer is, but we cleaned all the dishes, pulled all the covers, but what we're gonna do, we're gonna drown. Would you rather have it being slow going out, or you rather it going fast and then flood your neighbors out downstream? That's what we're gonna do. I mean, it was almost in Miss Luger's house this time,
It was.
correct?
It got in.
It got in trouble.
Not in the garage, on my side.
On your side.
Yeah.
All right, almost got in it this time. It's been there before. It's close to it.
2 years ago.
I don't know what the answer is. I mean, we can listen to the, what's it called, experts that's got the engineer degrees and all that tell us how to do it. But start with, can I go on private property and put a ditch across it? I don't think I can. I don't think the city can. Can we force water on down to a neighbor. You know, I thought we had an ordinance that we couldn't bring any more field dirt into town. I see up here at Depot Street up here, we got 3 or 4 more loads brought into a house right up here.
Absolutely.
And the trailer's done flooded now, floods every time. Now it's gonna be worse where they can't get any weighted in and out. So we've got the same thing again, so we need to clean our act up before we ask anybody else to clean theirs. Because I don't want to flood out nobody downstream, in which I still don't want the neighbors I got behind me to get flooded out. So we need to get something in order to slow this down. If we don't, we're going to get in a heck of a shape. And to me, if it's left up to me, I would issue another building permit in city limits of Chapel Hill.
Thank you.
Because we can't take care of what we've got now. That's my opinion. Now, y'all might have a different opinion than that, but that's my opinion. And I don't know what the answer is. I think we need to clean some ditches out. I understand that. I know what the PVC pipe going underneath
That big.
that big around and a driveway.
We know it's wrong.
There's no one's wrong. But who's responsible to replace that? Is that the city or the homeowners? And can we make him replace that drain pipe?
Who does that?
Well, I know the city and the pipe and the water and the gas people dig up the ditches every day. They own a certain footage from the road out, don't they, Mark?
Could you repeat that question, Mike?
Ain't there a certain drainage right you have from the road out? Easement?
Where?
The easement from the road out, we do own most of the ditches?
25 feet on this side.
Yeah, so we do have rights in the ditches.
We don't own it, but we
Don't
have
own it.
easements to run utilities through, and I'm not sure about the drainage pipes.
We have right-of-way access. Todd, do you recall what any ordinance says about the maintenance of the culverts?
Yeah.
I mean, if
If they go to the backyard, put one in.
if it's within the town right of way, we can do it, but it's not always 25 feet from the center line. Sometimes it is, some of the older streets are not, they're more narrow, so you have to look at each one individually. And then, you know, if you've got a ditch and there's a question, you can get permission from the property owner to work within it. But again, you've got to look at each property before you can say whether the town can work in it or needs to get permission.
With that ditch deal, in right away, if I build a house tomorrow on whatever street, who tells me where to put the ditch or where to put the pipe? City-wide.
You probably won't go into your garage or into your driveway.
Well, I'm not trying to be smart about it, but.
I'm not trying to be smart.
I'm just saying from my point, okay? Working with the state, I had to dig a ditch. It had to be laid out, and it had to be determined the size appropriately to do, just like they're doing here at the new bank. Okay, they're gonna do the same thing for the church property, they're gonna put an extra one in. Who does that for us? I'm building a house next to you, Jackie, where the ditch is supposed to set. What is the right depth, which way is it supposed to flow? Or do I just take the pipe, like you said, put a 4-inch pipe, take it off the side of the truck, cover it up, hey, we're done.
I don't think, we don't have anything covered.
To my knowledge, there's no local regulation concerning culverts during construction.
If you're
Okay,
doing
that would be a number one, because now they just put in these big, heavy-duty gas pipes across. And now I'm discussing with Mr. Moorhead how we need to run a pitch to get it to flow.
Part of this other companies, they showed up there and said, a driveway was good right here. Where his 3 culverts come out, it comes into this little pond area. Now with the driveway here, and 3 culverts right here. So it's rushing through there and there's nowhere for it to go. Is that what you're asking
Well,
about?
that's part of it, because like I said, when they put the pipe in, they filled it up. I told the guys that were doing it, you're putting up large aggregate stone around it, so now you make a sump in front of the pipe, so it has no place to go. It hits the sump, it fills the pipe. So by knocking that out, that saved me about 3 inches coming up into my driveway. So now Moorhead's seen it and seen me making these little wonderful tracks through his yard, and it's like, well, I save water. It's also draining the other ones. Thank you, you can sell your house. So we worked it out. And that's what I'm asking, you know, if you put a pipe in, somebody should be able to come out and say, the pipe can't go there, or it should go here, or this is the way you have it laid out on your print. Okay, make sure it goes down 3 foot, 4 foot, and then top dress.
Okay, now I'm not sure about that back there on that street, but was anything that presented to the planning commission when they built that about culverts or whatever?
Or size.
And again, I'm not familiar with this
Right.
exact, but if there's a subdivision, then the town does look at the plans and analyzes where the drainage ditch will go. If it's a single lot, then there's not necessarily a site plan required to be filed for that, so then, yeah, the
I
property.
think there's 4 or 5 houses back there. Was anything on the planning, you come forward with the planning commission on that?
Not as far as a site plan for culverts,
Okay.
how they'd be situated.
In the city limits, as far as neighborhoods concerned, does the city not still provide one culvert? Does the city not put them in and supply one? They don't do that?
Not that I'm aware of.
I thought we did. They didn't mean.
Is that all you got, Mr. Joe?
Anybody else got anything? Bring up on that.
On this, I'm not familiar with any of this to a large extent. But why do we not have ordinances regulating the culverts put in the city? That's the silliest thing I think I've ever heard. Is they let somebody build a house with no drainage and no way to move the water that's either on my property or somebody else's property because I don't have a code for it or I don't have an ordinance for it. Why would we have a city that isn't controlling what is being built?
I think it's what we've been working at, or the city's been working at it for years, trying to get something in the ordinance. We have some city ordinances covered, some of it, but not on the culverts and stuff like that. And we've never run into anything like this that I know of. I mean, I worked for the city for 30 years up here, but I was a police officer, I've been over the streets. But as far as the other, I have no idea. But hindsight is 20/20, and we're just trying now to fix what we've done messed up.
Well, do we have an impact fee that the city charges for any new construction in the city?
None
To
of
take care of
we
it?
don't.
Why?
We just don't. We never have.
I don't think the state will let the county's already got it.
County's got an impact fee.
No, you can change your charter and get state legislation to charge an impact fee.
But it's very difficult.
Yeah, good luck
It
with
is-
that.
Well,
Very-
it's better than what we're doing right now. I mean, even if it's difficult, I still go after it. Well, I wouldn't stop because things are difficult.
Does the county have to give us?
You're preaching to the choir because some of you can attest to the fact when I was on the county commission, I was the ramrod to get that one. What the county impact fee is, and it's a very difficult to get through. So I'm all for it, but I don't think it looks good for us.
So do we get any?
Well, what do you mean it doesn't look good for us?
We do not get any portion of the county. The county charges it, is it $1.50 per square foot? It started out at 70 cents. And, so we did not get, we did try to get the county to share some of that with us at one time, but they have schools to build. And water to get to all the county. I believe of that impact fee, the first 300,000 goes to, water throughout the county.
The remainder is the roads.
They can't even give water to the county. I've got relatives on streets just 2 miles from here that have no water on them, and people on their streets have dried up wells, and they don't care. So, it sounds like it's a vicious cycle for the people of this county, in this city.
Anybody else?
trying to implement part of your study or whatever.
When is this gonna happen? What she presented to us?
The coming out, the digging of the ditches and the cleaning of the pipes and all of this, when is this going to happen?
Well, I don't think it happened today or tomorrow, because if you go wet, start digging up
I
there.
understand that, but when do you anticipate? A year? Or like I was told one time, it took me 2 years to get a pipe across the road for it, so would I wait another 2 years, or is there something that's gonna, what's the anticipated projection of it?
Or are we just talking about it?
I would anticipate presenting an option to the board in the next couple of months.
Because this is not something that just happens every now and then. There's usually 2 times a year, in the spring and in the fall, that is going to be up in our driveway.
And I'm not worried about so much the driveways, other people get flooded the same way.
Yeah, there's people across the street, it's up in their house.
Well, I think the short term, we're gonna work on a scheduling to get the pipes cleaned. That's an easy fix, to work on that. And then we will move from there and try to get the culvert or the pipe sizes uniform.
Are you going to hire people to do this? Or are those 3 guys going to do that?
I would say that we will have to look at the options and see. I would guess that the 3 can probably do the cleaning twice a year, or hire part-time help within that. That's just my guess. I'm certainly not the city manager. And I would think that we'd have to look and see what would be most cost-effective, whether you hired someone, independent contractor to put in culverts, or, you know, or if we can afford that. That would have to be looked at. Am I right?
I would say that's correct. We'll have an option for the board to look at, like I say, in the next couple of months.
Is there some type of a program where these high schoolers, they can come clean ditches?
That's a
in the
summertime
summertime?
program.
Give them a job.
It's the Hope donation. It's the Hope program for their Hope scholarship. It's something I've talked to Mark about it a dozen times. It's something that's the summertime.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's something I've been discussing with Mark. We're working on that for their community.
Plenty of them that
hours.
need a job.
Oh, we're working on it. Well, this is free labor actually. This is the Hope program. So, yeah, that's something I'm working on for you.
Can we get some of this issue resolved? Can you hold up building permits?
No, I don't think we can.
We have to have a legal reason to hold up the building
Well, I
permit.
think one of somebody out there, pretty good legal reason.
Todd, you want to take that one?
Yeah, I mean, in order to declare any sort of moratorium, we would need some real good engineering support to say that these areas, no homes can be built in and no permits can be pulled until the solution can be. And I don't know if, you know, we've got that kind of groundwork to support it, because you can understand the other side, if somebody owns a piece of property and wants to build a house, if the town says they can't, you've got to be able to defend that decision. So we would just have to see if there's justification to declare a moratorium until a solution can be found.
Well, that's a question from somebody in this house here. I was told, I asked the question when they started to build those houses down on Bell Street. There's 4 houses or 5? On Bigger Street, excuse me, on Bigger Street, 5 houses. I was asked the question why that they could build that. And we were contractors, and I'm not gonna bring their names up or nothing else. I said, I know it's gotta be in the flood stage, because it's been flooded, and I know since 1972. He said it was. If you got enough of that, you can get anything took out of the flood stage. Is that correct?
That's not correct, because it wasn't in the flood zone to begin with.
It's not in the floodplain. We don't have local BFEs established, but, you know, once again, I want everybody to understand that we don't have a legal right to tell someone that they can't improve their land if there's no, no type of legislation to back it. Anything that's not in the floodplain and that hasn't been deemed by some engineering study to, to be a certain way, we just simply don't have the authority to tell someone, no, you can't build here. We can sometimes make suggestions about how they build to protect the house itself that's being built there. But we can't tell someone that they can't improve their property and improve the value of their property without, some type of authority behind it.
I believe that you do have authority, though, to ensure that the residents around it are not adversely impacted.
Yes.
Therefore, people cannot build and push their flood solutions over on somebody else's property. So there is a responsibility of the town to ensure that if you build, you still are protecting those around it. It's not a matter of just the developer doesn't get the rights. The citizens that are here have rights too. So if you're going to push water online, then the city's going to get responsible. If my flood was getting flooded right now because you approved something, I'd be suing you. I would sue you and I'd have full grounds to do it. You cannot push somebody's flood water over to somebody else's property. Period. And that's the city's responsibility, and therefore you can enact legislation to ensure that doesn't happen.
Jackie, didn't you say there's something about hauling more dirt in town too?
Correct.
Yes, they are.
Yeah, they hauled it here, and they hauled it by me, so somehow that missed the loophole again, so it's just something that I'm trying to figure out myself how
That's
to
right.
deal with it. So,
Hey, I'm learning.
you're hitting the right spot.
I'm learning all this, just like you are. I'm a free talker.
Yeah.
I mean, I like to come out with words and shout Jesus Christ in a few minutes.
Who's in charge of checking that and checking up on that and finding out? Who does that, Mark?
There is something in our ordinance that deals with any property that's in the floodplain when it comes to hauling in dirt. There's not anything that we have in place when it deals to properties that are not in the floodplain. So if you wanted, if anybody that doesn't live in the floodplain were to haul in a load of dirt on their property, to my knowledge, there's nothing that would say that you can't.
Bigger than Bell Street is not in the floodplain, and to get something out of the floodplain that is in it, that is already in the floodplain, it is not as easy as you think, just if you got the greenbacks to do it. You gotta go through FEMA, it's very difficult, it's a long, lengthy process.
Not a long time ago, all of that over there next to railroad track is in the flood.
When I moved in, they said a house never rebuilt there. 10 years ago. Would not be allowed to be built across the way.
The floodplain on the flood map actually stops right there at the park property.
The property that you're talking about, Biggers and Bell, that is not in the flood zone.
So we're gonna get flooded like that.
Something's changed in the last 10
You might
years.
get water on it, but there was not water there, up to any of those houses that's been built, so.
No, because they hauled in 50 loads of dirt. I wouldn't have it either.
If somebody comes into town hall up there and asks somebody up there tomorrow, does certain street, does it ever flood? Is it not our obligation to get a city equivalent say, yes, it has?
Yeah, I mean, there's nothing wrong with being honest about anything. But
If it is, tell them come 451 and you tell me, I'll tell them where the flood's not around here.
They were filling the loophole with the flood, or with their foundation. They built with rock, they built it up with where the water would normally be. As long as it doesn't get into the house, it's not considered a problem. You can't get flood insurance on it.
Can't get flood insurance if it's not in the flood zone.
Water damage, whatever you want to call it, sir. I don't care what you call it. I'm more worried about the car, the driveway, the dog in the backyard. I live over there. That's my neighborhood. I'm with Jackie here. That water's collected up over that damn road since I've lived over there for 10, 11 years now. Just because you can build there doesn't mean you should. And I'm sorry, I'm not trying to, I apologize. This is a sore subject for me, Big Show. It's just disappointing. By definition, it's not a floodplain, but the definition ought to be changed a little.
That would have to go back to FEMA program. good look.
And I apologize, I realize I'm sounding a little rude earlier, that's not my intention, it's just.
I don't take it personal.
But anytime you put something on the land, you're gonna displace where the water fell.
I don't know.
And it's gonna go somewhere.
I agree.
And this time it went over the road. So, I don't know what that solution is.
Well, I got something tomorrow to do, Mark. I'm gonna find, look and see if we got anything as a resolution. Because you cannot bring more field dirt within town to run water on anybody else. I'm 9.5% sure it's there somewhere.
I will check it out.
If it's not, I'll be bringing something.
You think it is, Mary?
I don't know, I've never, I always thought it was because, where that road, at our backfield, where that slopes down, it's like, I always thought it would be nice.
Right down there where that trailer is, where I was talking about that little 6-inch PVC pipe going into the driveway. Okay?
Uh-huh.
They told them they couldn't bring a shovel of dirt in there to fill that ditch. To put there to keep water from getting underneath their trailer, they couldn't bring a wheelbarrow of dirt in there. They were told that.
And I thought that was the case myself, but like I said, because I would put some up there that was running in our yard.
Because I got up yesterday morning about that, down here at the Shell station, why they get to bring dirt in town, they couldn't bring none down them. I said, well,
I don't know what
that
the rule
brings
of thumb
some.
is. There's a rule of thumb, you can't change the direction flow of water and you can't dam it up. That's all the way back from the Corps of Engineers up to the government, I don't know.
Yeah, that's what Mr. Bob was talking about, that the problem is proving it, and not the dilemma now.
I'm sorry?
The problem with that is proving the water is displacing it.
You have legal action, you just prove it, and usually you flow it by change of grade, there's gonna be sufficient evidence that they changed the flow of water.
Yeah, you can't change the flow of water.
All right, anything,
I know that.
everybody else got anything on this? We got about 7, 8 more things here to go through tonight. It's done 7 o'clock. 30 more minutes, I'm going to bed. Appreciate y'all coming down. And most definitely we'll be getting in contact with you again on this. This is new server purchase.
This is one where our server is basically overloaded and it's not functioning properly anymore. I'm not sure how old it is. Chris, you know how old that server is?
Almost 6 years old.
It just doesn't have any more space for data. And it's something that we have to do.
What's the approximate cost?
$6,500. 6,500.
Second.
We have a first and second, any discussion on it? If it's full capacity, you don't do that. We got to, we'll call the vote.
Alderman Parker?
Yeah.
Alderman Hill?
Here.
Alderman Lawrence?
Yes.
Alderman Joyce?
Yes.
Alderman Horton? Yes. Alderman Lawrence? Wait.
Contract waste management. Is anybody in waste management here?
No, this was bid out a couple of months ago. I had looked over this contract and you had a couple of comments. I think you wanted to go over that with them, Ty.
No, I think this one was okay. We did have a couple of items highlighted in the agreement that I guess the term needs to be filled out. And I had a question, I did not recall that it had been bid out, but if it's been bid out, that resolves my question.
Yeah, and Waste Management was the only respondent to the RFP.
Move to approve.
Second.
First and second, any discussion on it? Call the vote.
Alderman Parker?
Yes.
Alderman Hill? Yes. Alderman Lawrence?
Yes.
Alderman Joyce?
Yes.
Alderman Horton? Alderman Williams?
Is there any increase in this contract with Waste Management?
They are increasing our price that we pay to them. We're not going to discuss, I don't think at this meeting, any subsequent increases to the customer. But yes, they are increasing their price to us.
how much per unit, or per household, or per business is that involved, Mark?
I'm wanting to think it's 3%, if I remember correctly.
You got 35 cents.
Yeah, 35 cents is how much they're increasing from, per unit from 10,
I think it's the 1047 is what it will be.
okay. But yes, it's about 35 cents is what they're increasing.
Are you all will be kind enough to pass that along to us?
Not yet.
I think we had an increase in two here in the past that went up on us and we kept it in-house. I think we ended up paying for it ourselves, didn't we? The city.
That's correct. We absorbed, I think the last one at least. But I mean, I haven't brought anything to the board to discuss an increase in the garbage rate to the customer.
Did we call the roll on that? Any more discussion on that? Did I call the roll? Contract with J.R. Walker.
After discussing this one with Todd, there's some language in there that I'd like to, if it's okay, pull this one off and put it back on next month.
Okay.
Once we get some language changed, then that one will satisfy us.
What does the Walton Company or Mr. Walton do for the city?
This is an engineering firm, and this would be tied to a sewer project on the north end, going out to Crutcher Road.
All right, that's been passed. Mutual aid agreement with Henry State Park.
I make a motion.
Got a motion to accept, second.
What is this all for, besides?
Mutual aid agreement where ours would be covered by ours, and theirs would be covered by
I
theirs.
second.
I thought it was right.
You got a first and second, call the roll.
Alderman Parker?
Yes.
Alderman Hill?
Yes.
Alderman Lawrence?
Yes.
Alderman Joyce?
Yes.
Alderman Norton?
Yes.
Alderman Williams?
Yes.
Hazard mitigation plan. Has anybody looked at that thing? Can anybody figure that out? Anybody, police or fire, anybody? Tell me what this is.
This is something that was sent to us by the Marshall County OEM. It's just an updated version of the hazard mitigation plan that we have to do to comply with regulations every so often.
Okay.
Make a motion then.
Get a motion to accept.
Second.
Got a second. Any more discussion on it? Got a first and second. We'll call the roll.
Alderman Parker? Yes. Alderman Hill?
Yes.
Alderman Lawrence?
Yes.
Alderman Joyce?
Yes.
Alderman Norton?
Yes.
Alderman Williams?
Yes.
All right, here's your big daddy. Resolution 21906, utility rate increase.
I would like to mention one thing, Mayor, if it's okay.
Okay.
I did, I think, tell a couple of people that this would be an ordinance, and after speaking with Todd, I think that it could be either an ordinance or a resolution, depending on how many times y'all wanted to vote on it. But I mistakenly thought that it had to be an ordinance, and just wanted a couple of people in the audience to know that that's what I told them. I was mistaken.
Have we informed everybody to be informed about this? It was out in the paper. Everybody got a letter in the mail that we recommended.
We sent letters to.
I know we got the letters. Was it in the paper we were of? The article in the paper?
Yes.
We was gonna write up an article and put it in the paper. Did it get there? Do you know?
Yes, that's the,
Everything went out.
I don't think we wrote it, I think it meant her.
Yeah, that's right there.
It was on my side, I thought. Somebody's got to do it, I'm gonna make a motion.
Second.
We got a motion first and second, any more discussion on it?
I have a question. With it being a resolution as opposed to an ordinance, does that mean that tonight will be the only vote?
Tonight's it.
That's it.
Them people that recommended that, they gonna help me pay my water bill.
I'll get you paid.
Do that.
I'll get you paid.
I'm just curious as to why it's taken these 3 years to bring this.
We should have started about, they should, I say we, the city council should have started this about 10, 12 years ago.
10 years ago.
It should have been with about 3% every year, and by then, it would have done being to here. We were trying to, what is, this man here said, don't pull the Band-Aid off one time, because what we're doing, if we waited, and you may not have been here earlier, if we raised it 30, they said, we could go with 30% now, but in July, we gotta raise it another 15%. At least 45. But 15 more percent is gonna be more, in July, it's gonna go to 48, 49% is what it would come to, what it is today. That's the reason we don't only do it at one time, to try to save the people that. If somebody's using low quality, low minimum bar, it's gonna go down on them. Mine, it's gonna go up $40, $50. Now, I know it is, I'm over. And the schools is gonna go up, you talking about in the thousands of dollars. The business around town, we're gonna do some changing on ordinance stuff on the, or try to, on the water usage, where it don't go into the sewer, but the sewer payment will not go up. Because why would we gonna charge you filling your swimming pool up when it's not gonna go in the sewer system? That's what we're trying to do, to regulate something, to save somebody some money down the road, which I'm saying, I ain't got a swimming pool, you may not have one, but somebody else sitting there may. And there's business in town the same way, they don't use the sewer. And we try to get something around that. But it should have been started done 10, 12, 15 years ago, to tell you the truth. Because I think it's been 12 years since water rates went up here in the city of Chapel Hill. And it's come up in bill.
When do we find out that this, what needs to be done to the system that requires a 50% increase for this 43%?
We're losing money every month. We can't, we're selling new water cheaper than what we bill for. That's what it amounts to. We're selling the people of Chapel Hill water. If we buy it in the county, we sell it to you cheaper than what we give the county for. Is that not correct?
That's correct.
So it's bad business, it goes back. And we're trying to get caught up where we won't be in the red, and I sure want the state to come down here and try to regulate it. I'm not for selling this water system. I'll tell you right now I'm not, because we have no control with it. If we sold this water treatment and our plant and everything, or worked it out, and we was gonna sell to them people, Whitewater, whatever it was, to come in here, you wouldn't have control with it. The city council wouldn't have control with it. They could raise your water rate 150%. It's not a thing you can do. And you can't get another well inside the city limits, because I think the ordinance says you can't do wells in town.
You can change the ordinance, can't you?
Do what?
You can change the ordinance, can't you?
I don't think we can, because when the sewer and water was put in, we can't, I mean, when the city water come up, I mean, no, I'm not sure about the water, I know it's sewer.
It's the sewer unit.
But we took people off water that had good water. Took them off the waivers, years back. I don't know how many years ago it was, but I think we did.
I'll tell them something, we had a well out here across the railroad track. Ocean of water, we pumped it for 2 days and never lowered the bed. The state made them fill it up with concrete. And said we cannot use it out there for it could be kind of accommodated from that feed mill out there. That could not use that water out there.
But Tennessee won't let us, what they call commingle our funds, so we have to pay for all our water expenses by what we take in from our customers. And we are not taking in enough money to operate the system, simple as that. And when they did the audit for 2 years, we have not paid for our water by charging the customers. So went to a meeting the other night and they said they preferred that we did it because if we know how much we're raising it to pay for it, they might come in and tell us that they needed 50 to 100% more. And because we might need to bill some other something. So we're coming out cheaper by setting the rate for exactly what we need instead of what the state tells us we need.
And if we don't do it, they will come here and force us to do it. Is that correct, Mark?
Eventually, that's what would happen, yes. That's not what they prefer to do, but eventually if we did nothing.
If we sit here and did nothing, they would do it.
But if the state come in here, they would need retention ponds where they need to be dug. No matter whose property, who owns it.
That's sewer water. That's different.
That's
Stormwater drainage is all different.
It's different.
Cost fund. So Mayor, I acknowledge that you have no choice but to raise this rate tonight.
Correct.
You have zero choice, okay? Your capital improvement projects that are necessary on the books, you've got $2.5 million in water, a couple $3 million in wastewater. They're all necessary because of what we have approved for the new development and what we need for it to improve the city. I get all that. My question is to this board, this group, how are you going to keep this from happening again? Because this is the first salvo. The roads are going to cost the city residents money in years, very near years to come, and we don't have money to pay for those. We don't have a plan right now as far as the capital improvement plan. The stormwater drainage issue, the parks issue. There are lots of things that are coming down the pipe because as we grow, we don't have a plan to manage all those items. You know, so the cost is going to be pushed to the residents, whether or not it be property taxes. We're talking about a new water plant possibly that's not currently projected in the capital improvement plans for the water. That's another water increase that's going to come, and we're going to be able to afford that. Those kind of things need to be put into a long-term plan, comprehensive plan that the residents participate in, the residents are knowledgeable of. I know Mark's got a lot of things he's been doing, but nobody knows about them. Okay, we don't communicate those things. We ask for them, we don't see them. 2 years ago, I asked for them, and he acknowledges that. And I didn't get it. Okay, we're not telling the residents what. We have a communication gap, and we have a gap in planning. So I know that putting a moratorium is a challenge. Our wastewater plant is already at capacity. That's one element that can be used for a moratorium. Our water is stretched. That's another issue that possibly could. Our stormwater drainage concern. There's a lot of safety issues to the residents that I think we can build, and during that time period, we work on the deal. I also understand what George said as far as asking for a impact fee, but let's go for it. I mean, that is worth it so that the residents don't continue to absorb the price. Because the next 200 or 300 homes is going to cost more because the residents, rooftops never pay for themselves. They never pay for themselves, either water, wastewater, or property tax. The impact fees, the developers, other cities have them. They're able to get leverage them. We have to make that a priority, take it with our legislators and say, we need your backing, we need this to happen. So change the charter and let's get a comprehensive plan. So we don't come back to these kind of meetings in the future. That's all I got.
How much is the tap fee for the water and the sewer, Mark?
It's $2,500 for water, $2,500 for sewer.
When was the last time that was changed?
10, 11, I don't know.
About 5, 6 years ago.
Was it 5, 6 years ago?
Yeah, I think it was $1,300, $1,400. I'm not sure. I think I'm right.
And we have eventually surveyed that.
$1,250 and it's doubled.
It doubled.
$2,500.
We eventually have now got that going under, looking at too, Mark, about increasing them. That is something we have talked about in the past 2 months. We are looking at increasing them for the new neighborhoods coming in. Because it's been, like he said, 5 years since it's increased.
You know, it might be, look at the cost of our water and our sewer every year. How much does it go up? That all they've built in to automatically go up whatever it costs additional every year.
Some of those tap rates are already very high compared to other towns.
We need to look at that then. I think we've maxed out at water sewer tap rates. Because
We have to be able to justify a tap fee based on cost, which is separate from an impact fee, like Mr. Mathis is talking about, which our charter does not allow us to impose. And I'll let Todd explain that if you want to a little bit, just as far as what it would take for us to get that into our charter.
An impact fee?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I mean, we would have to, we've got a private act charter, and so the route that used to occur most frequently when you had a private act charter was to ask the General Assembly to amend it to allow impact fees. To my knowledge, they haven't done that for private act cities in several years. Now, I have to update that to make sure that's right. But to Mr. Mathis's point, most other jurisdictions in the state, I don't know what the percentage is, have the authority to levy impact fees, whether it's because they're under a general law charter or they got it in a private act. So there might be some different options. That would be something that couldn't occur until the next legislative session, so next year at the earliest, but that would give the town time to look at those options and talk to its legislators and make a plan for that if that's something that wanted to pursue between now and then.
Okay. I sure hate to be damn change the charter again. I know y'all, I've sat through it 1, 2, 3 times and trying to get charter changed. But it's not like changing a resolution, going through the state to do it.
I've been through getting an impact fee on adequate facilities tax, and I'm telling you, I've never seen so many people out working to get you defeated in an election. And I say that, I mean, it is massive. The money that's going to be spent in opposition to that at the legislature with the the state legislatures. You've got to get them, and nobody wants an impact fee or any new tax. And most of them run on no new taxes. And it's been there, done that, and I mean, I'm all for it, but it takes that to God almost to do it. Yeah, been there, done that.
We need to look at it anyway to see what we can do. Did we call a roll?
No, we didn't call a roll.
Yeah.
Mayor, just for clarification, for the record, if we could state which option, our resolution that's prepared has multiple options for the fee increase. We can clarify which option we're voting on.
But I think the way the resolution reads, I think it says just to follow the impasse recommendations, recommended schedule, so that would be, the blue column is what we would be voting on if there was no change to the language in the resolution.
Okay, make sure that's consistent with the motion, I think we're fine.
Consistent, yeah. You understand what you're saying?
Absolutely.
All right.
That ain't changed, has it, Mark? That's what it was, yeah.
No, sir, that's just like it came on the email in December.
Yes.
First and second, not asking anything, just call the roll.
Alderman Clarkberry?
Yes.
Alderman Hill?
Yes.
Alderman Lawrence?
Yes.
Alderman Joyce?
Yes.
Alderman Morton? Yes. Alderman Williams?
Yes.
Let's a tough bullet to chew on. Resolution 2019 zoning change request.
What was that change in Mark? What zone was that, area was that?
It's, that's on the corner of, Maple and, Gordon Highway, where the front half of that lot is.
You want to be residential, right?
They want to zone the whole, right now, half of that lot is zoned commercial and the back half is zoned residential. And they want the whole lot to be one thing. They want to zone it commercial. B2.
B2. And just for clarification, this will be an ordinance, and so this is first reading of the ordinance.
Okay.
Make a motion.
First reading of ordinance.
So this have to go through twice, 2 more times.
No one.
One more time. Let's go through twice.
I think it might be good, might be a thing to bring up.
150 feet away.
All right. Bill first and second.
Pick up second.
I second.
Alderman Parker?
Yes.
Alderman Hill?
Yes.
Alderman Lawrence?
Yes.
Alderman Joyce?
Yes.
Alderman Horton?
Yes.
Alderman Williams?
Yes.
Signage update.
It came out of planning commission and it was actually, it was discussed and it has been gone over thoroughly, the signage. I make a motion.
I said,
Of course, the second approval of signage. I think we just did it the last 2 or 3 months. We'll call the roll.
Alderman Parker?
Yes.
Alderman Hill?
yes.
Alderman Lawrence?
Yes.
Alderman Joyce?
Yes.
Alderman Williams?
Yes.
All right, orders 2019-02 junk vehicle update.
This is junk vehicle for all residents, is that correct?
Yes, sir, this is to, basically make our junk vehicle ordinance, more strict than it currently is.
They tell me you got some places here in town, they tell them you got too many vehicles out here, you're running business out of something, all this other stuff, you got other people sitting around. They're cleaning it up, 2 days later after it's all, okay, we're good to go, the vehicle, some of the vehicles right out, or some of them.
We put a limit on it, Mark, or is it just junk vehicles in general?
I'll let Todd address this one. I mean, of course, once again, there's only statutorily only so much we can do, but, I know that we've, shrunk the notice provision and, made a couple of things clear. Todd, I'll let you go into that a little further.
We've already got in our ordinance provisions defining what junk vehicles are. This, again, adds shortens the notice provision for when a vehicle would need to be removed before they're issued a citation. And for every day after that 5th day, they're subject to a $50 penalty. Of course, that would have to come before the city judge, and she would levy the penalty based on how many days it was there until it's removed, which is a quicker enforcement. I think we have a 30-day notice provision before this, so that's the change to the ordinance. Between now and second reading, I'll make sure that Boma has the current junk ordinance so that you can see the addition in the context of the existing ordinance.
This just first reading on it?
Yes.
Okay.
I'll make a motion.
Second.
First and second, any discussion on it? Call the roll.
Alderman Parker?
Yes.
Alderman Hill?
Yes.
Alderman Lawrence? Alderman Joyce?
Yes.
Alderman Horton?
Yes.
Alderman Williams?
All right. 2019-03 amendment regarding variance request.
All right, yes, this is the ordinance that would allow for a variance request concerning the size of previously sized lots in subdivisions. And Todd, once again, I'll let you discuss that one a little bit if you can.
Mayor, if we could reverse these, I'll pull my ordinance up. I just didn't see it in the packet. We can take the next agenda item, then I can discuss this one.
That's it.
That's the last one.
Okay, well, I'm sorry.
Unless you want me to go, you look at it, I'll talk a while, I'll take my point down.
Okay.
People slept in here on this water, the raising the rates, the flooding. It's been long coming, I hate it. I've got some good friends that are affected by it, close friends that are really affected by it, especially the ones on raising the water rates up. After income tax, I cleared, I think it's what, $252 a month. And if y'all know anybody, elderly person in here, or out there that's gonna need it, they can get affected real bad on that, let me know. And they can have that $252.
Another thing, Jackie, I'm gonna do a better job making sure everybody that's elderly gets tax relief. So that'll be $103 so they can get off their taxes. And I think that will help too.
Okay. We need to take care of these people. I mean, and the people that can't afford it.
Now, the way we've got it going, though, the elderly and the single people will not be increased, correct?
Will not be increased. It depends on the water. But that's the reason I was getting at on the water leaks and stuff like that. I need to get around
Absolutely,
that.
don't get around it.
Come back to make sure that they don't come up. Because you take a woman across the road and me has a water leak between the mayor and the house, $500 water bill and a $600 sewage bill, and that's gonna hurt. And what you do. So listen, that's what I was getting at.
We gotta get that going.
You need to fight hard, look at it. And if anybody comes to town hall, Mark, you can tell the ladies work out front, or y'all. If you got a place in your town and it's going to buy a house, we'll go to that place for us, tell them to come see me. And I'll tell them the truth. I can speak my mind. I ain't like a lot of people.
I've got that drone video that we did last year's flood that I've shown anybody that has wanted to look at it.
We're hindsight's 20/20, people. Look like we're getting a hit right in the yang on it.
Do you still need another minute, Todd? Because there's something I need to do here. Do you still need another
Oh, no,
minute?
I'm good whenever you are, if you're ready.
I'll get it at the end.
Okay. So the ordinance that we're looking at is, there's a section in our zoning ordinance that requires it, if there are old lots that are less than what is now required in the zoning ordinance, what we run into is we've got some old 50-foot lots that are of record, but they're in zoning or districts that require 75-foot lots. And what our ordinance currently requires is that if there are non-conforming lots that have continuous frontage and have the same ownership, that they're required to be put together. So two 50-foot lots would be required to be turned into one 100-foot lot, or at least combined so that they're minimum of 75 feet. What this ordinance would do would be to allow those existing delete the language that requires those lots to be put together. They would still have to go to BZA for a variance for the smaller width lots, but it would allow the BZA to grant that variance just for existing non-conforming lots. It wouldn't allow anybody to create a new lot that's small, but it would allow, if you've got an old existing lot, to ask for a variance to build on. Again, this is first reading, but if you'd like to look at it, I've got the ordinance, and we can pass this till next month and have it on first reading where you can look at it and see what it says. But it's just deleting a section in the ordinance that requires those lots to be combined.
Couldn't wait no longer.
And Mary may want to speak.
It's been hashed out in the planning commission, it came with a favorable recommendation. Mostly, we were working on the ones on Highland Street, I think, and that's where we needed, to do that for some of the older sections in town. Because they were all sold in 50-foot lots.
Well, we understood now that, it was 3 50-foot lots, and they built a house right in the middle of it, but they left them lots. House is gone. He's sitting there with 3 50-foot lots.
And under our current ordinance, he would be required to put those into 2 75-foot lots and not, so he'd end up with one less lot the way our ordinance is currently written.
Tommy's on the middle one now.
And so if this was done, then he could go to the BZA and ask for the.
But now, most of the lots, like all up and down the highway, like the house I own down here, I think it originally was 4 50-foot lots.
And again, yeah, this,
Then the car lot
it was
backs up.
probably a loophole, a way to get around it, but this would, BZA didn't have the authority to grant him a variance the way it's currently written.
What he's doing down there now, it's nothing we can do about it.
I don't know, if he doesn't own it, if it's,
Somebody else owns it,
he owns it, I don't know.
Has he got to come in and ask for
You
variance?
still need to get, somebody would need to get a variance, whoever owns it, to build on the smaller lot, but the BZA would have the authority to grant it if it's not the same ownership.
So it happened last year in the August meeting across the street, and no variance was granted, right?
I know that was discussed, I don't remember the specifics of that, but.
It was pretty hard.
I mean, you can look on the tax record, I mean, it's just 3 lots of record, I mean, they might be non-conforming now, but they were conforming back in the day. You know, there's other people at Chapel Hill, and I don't know if y'all sent letters out to these people that are sitting on 100-foot pieces of land, that they know they got 2 lots there. And so their driveways on the 50-foot, and their trailer or houses on, and it's on Highland Street, and their trailers on the other 50-foot. So these people think they got 2 lots.